What I recall when the Conservatives were in government was a country that was ashamed of what we were doing on the world stage. It was a country that was ashamed that we were not fighting climate change, and it was a country that was ashamed that we were putting forward divisive politics and not bringing people together. And that is exactly what I heard from the member opposite today. Madam Speaker.
This country made me a promise when I was born. It made the same promise to everyone in this room and across this country. I was born to a 16-year-old single mom who put me up for adoption, to 2 school teachers, and they taught me about this promise. The promise was that anyone from anywhere could do anything, that hard work would earn a powerful paycheck, they would buy you good food and a decent home in a safe neighborhood. It's that promise that brought my wife's family here as refugees from Venezuela. 6 people in a 2-bedroom basement, working-class Montreal apartment. Her dad up at the crack of dawn to hop on the back of a pickup truck and go out into the middle of a farm field and pick fruit so that he could pay the rent. Today, her brothers are a soldier, a carpenter. Her sister is a nurse. Her father has a business with his wife, and they have all succeeded. The promise was kept. It was that promise that got me into politics in the first place, and I was very proud to be part of a government that not only kept the promise but expanded it. With the lowest inflation in almost half a century, incomes after tax and inflation that went up 10%, we cut the GST, we balanced the budget. We did it all while increasing health care transfers faster than any government since that transfer. I welcome every single time they talk about my experience in government is doing the exact same things that I would like to do in the future, which is to expand the opportunity, expand the promise of this country. But that promise, after 9 years of the NDP Liberal Prime Minister, is broken. Everything costs more, with 2 million people lined up at food banks because they cannot afford food. This is a record-smashing number. 1 in 10 Torontonians now eat at a food bank every single month. Housing costs have doubled, so that 2/3 of young people believe they will never be able to afford a home. That has never happened in Canadian history. And we see it most tragically in our streets, where there are now 1,800 homeless encampments across Canada, across Ontario, 35 in Halifax. Quaint, beautiful, once prosperous Halifax has 35 homeless encampments. The Prime Minister admits in his own press releases 1 in 4 kids are not getting enough food. Malnutrition and diseases linked to it that had long ago been eradicated are making comebacks. We've lost 47,000 people to drug overdoses, more than we lost in the Second World War. These numbers are stories. They are human lives. When the NDP says, all these people can just wait, we don't need to fix these problems now, we could just delay another year and let thousands more die, thousands more lose their homes and move into dangerous tent encampments. Thousands more become addicted to government-funded drugs or be killed by a rampant career criminal released once again for the 76th time to unleash chaos in our streets. They say wait to those Canadians who are suffering the pain of a brutal economy, the worst economy since the Great Depression. The per capita GDP, that's income per person, is down more than at any time since the Great Depression. In fact, our economy per capita is smaller today than it was 10 years ago. Our income per person has dropped more than any other G7 country since 2019, the year before the pandemic, while the American economy has grown 19%, right next door. The gap between our per capita GDP and the Americans is now worse than at any time since at least World War II and according to one Liberal economist, Trevor Tom, the worst in a century. We've gone from winning the war of capitalism with the Americans, the tug of war, where they were investing 30 to 100 billion more per year in our economy than we were investing in theirs in the first 14 years of this century, to in the last 9 years, 450 billion more Canadian money invested in the States than the reverse. Wow. Canadian dollars building pipelines, mines, business centers, shopping centers, and businesses that pay American paychecks. I love America, but I don't want to bring jobs to Americans. I want to bring home those jobs and the Canadian promise to this country. And that's why we have a common sense plan to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Axe the tax. This will be a carbon tax referendum, a carbon tax election. And I know that the media has worked hard to try and avoid me saying the words carbon tax, as we saw in the extremely dishonest and fraudulent report from Bell Media-controlled CTV, who is a company that is whose bonds have been downgraded to near junk status as its overpaid CEO empties the books to pay his wealthy friends an unacceptably and unrealistically high dividend. But the reason why he and his other cronies at that company are going after me is because he knows that I'm standing up for the people against the crony capitalists and insiders like him. The carbon tax election. Here's the existential choice. Do we go to a 61 cent a litre carbon tax, making us among the highest taxed fuel in all of the world? A tax that will grind our economy to a halt, that will force our truckers to leave to the U.S. where there is no carbon tax. Nobody left to bring goods to our grocery store, parts to our factories, jobs to our people. It will be a nuclear winter if this happens. That's why common sense conservatives will axe the tax. We will bring home jobs, paychecks, businesses, and opportunity with abundant, affordable energy. We will fight climate change and protect our economy with technology, not taxes, by approving large-scale green projects that generate nuclear, hydroelectric, carbon capture and storage, and other sources of affordable, clean Canadian energy will once again get approved when we repeal the anti-development law C-69, all of which will generate the revenues so that we can fix the budget. We will fix the budget by unleashing massive growth through the elimination of bureaucratic barriers and firing gatekeepers so that our projects can get built, setting the goal that all three levels of government should aspire to have the fastest building permits in the entire OECD. After 9 years of tax increases on entrepreneurs and calling businesses tax cheats, we will pass a bring it home tax cut to lower the burden on work, savings, and investment so that we bring home powerful paychecks and production to this country, lower, fairer, simpler taxes. We will cap government spending with a dollar-for-dollar law that requires we find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending. We'll cut bureaucracy, waste, and consulting contracts so that we can get the budget close to, or hopefully on balance as soon as possible to bring down interest rates, inflation, and debt. And finally, we will unleash the construction of homes by incentivizing municipalities to grant faster permits, free up land, and speed up and to cut development taxes so that we can build in safe neighborhoods with jail, not bail, for repeat violent offenders, to bring home the promise of Canada of a powerful paycheck that earns affordable food, gas, and homes in safe neighborhoods where anyone from anywhere can do anything. The biggest and most open land of opportunity the world has ever seen. That is our vision. That is our purpose. Now, let's bring it home.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Government House, the Honourable Member. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the Leader of the Opposition for that speech. Although I think what is particularly interesting is his revisionist history of the time that the Conservatives were in government. But one thing that stood out to me in his remarks is that he said he was going to do the exact same thing as when they were in government. Now, what I recall when the Conservatives were in government was a country that was ashamed of what we were doing on the world stage. It was a country that was ashamed that we were not fighting climate change, and it was a country that was ashamed that we were putting forward divisive politics and not bringing people together. And that is exactly what I heard from the member opposite today. Madam Speaker, to get big projects done, we have to do so in cooperation with Indigenous partners. To get big things done, we have to do that with Canadians at the forefront. And what we are hearing from the member opposite is that he has no intention to do things to move Canadians forward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I have heard a lot of voices, and it's funny because when the Leader of the Official Opposition was speaking, nobody was making any noise on either side of the House, and now I'm hearing a lot of heckling. So I would ask members to please be respectful and offer that reciprocal silence to other individuals when they have the floor. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
I know that the Liberals are ashamed of our country and its past. That's why they changed the passport to take out Vimy Ridge, to take out Terry Fox, to take out other historical triumphs of Canadians. But I am very proud of how we upheld that heritage. We helped defeat the Taliban and ISIS on the world stage in partnership with Barack Obama, I might add. Speaking of the Americans, we got a deal on softwood lumber. We got an exemption to Buy America. We had open and free trade. Our Prime Minister was respected in the world. He wasn't dancing around and being laughed out of India or seen in a drunken stupor in some fancy hotel lobby playing the piano the night before the Queen's funeral. He was proud of this country. I am proud of this country. Canadians are proud of this country, and we're going to bring home the country we love.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just have a quick question. We've been back just a week, and the government re-became a minority 3 weeks ago. That's what people voted for in 2021, so the government went back to being a minority. We've only had 1 week of Parliament so far this September. Is it not the perfect opportunity, therefore, to debate? Why such a rush for elections? Isn't it time to negotiate? We know that they're isolated. Not even their pets want to talk to them nowadays. But perhaps the Conservatives could work seriously with this Parliament, trying not to simply salt the earth behind them. We are trying to be constructive. What does the Honourable Leader have to say? The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition. First of all, there's two mistakes in the answer. The Bloc Québécois has no leverage. They've offered their support to the government with absolutely no gains for Quebec, no gains for their party. The gains will happen under a common-sense Conservative government that will respect Quebec's jurisdictions. And that's why the Bloc doesn't want a Conservative government, because they won't have anything to complain about. When the Conservatives were in power under Harper, there was no Bloc Québécois. By the end of it, because there was peace. Peace with Quebec. Quebecers were saying, well, Canada's going well. They're leaving us alone in our jurisdictions. We don't need the Bloc. We don't need the Liberals. But now the Liberals and the Blocistes are codependent. Quebecers want to have their jurisdictions, and that's what we will allow.
I'm still hearing some heckling. I want to remind members to please not do that and to respect those who have the floor. Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Let's review the member for Carleton's record on cuts to health care. He voted against dental care. He voted against pharmacy care. He voted to cut health care time and time again. Maybe it doesn't matter to somebody who's had the government pay his dentist appointments since his early 20s, but those costs matter to families. So I've got a simple question for the member for Carleton. Let's see if he actually answers this question. Would the member for Carleton cut the dental care program that has provided real relief to seniors and kids? Yes or no?
Yes.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
I'm going to start by correcting the falsehoods. One, I encourage him to find one example where I've not voted to increase health care transfers. We voted, when I was in government, we increased health care transfers by 70%. Because of Stephen Harper's courageous leadership and strong books, the NDP voted against those increases. Now, they propose a pharmacare scheme that would ban union workers from keeping their private pharmacare plans. Unions have fought too hard and too long for the drug plans that they have to have the NDP ban them for using what it calls a single-payer system, which necessitates banning any non-government plan. When I was on the floor of Stelco, the men and women there said they want to keep the plan that they fought for, and I told them I will never allow the NDP to ban their private drug plans and impose an inferior government plan that doesn't work.
There are still individuals who are wanting to participate in the debate and they don't have the floor. Again, I ask them to please be respectful and allow those members who have the floor to be able to speak without interruption. Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The member of Perth Wellington.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know the member from Carleton spent the summer speaking with dozens and dozens and dozens of hard-working Canadians on factories, floors, and manufacturing facilities across the country. I'd like to know from the Leader of the Opposition, what was the message he heard from the hard-working people who build this country?
Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
The message that I heard was that after 9 years of the NDP Liberal government, everything is broken. Life costs more, work doesn't pay, housing costs have literally doubled. Crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder are common in our streets. But what most disappointed them, is, especially the ones who voted NDP, is the way that that party abandoned them under their new and radical leader. This NDP leader is not like the past NDP. He doesn't stand up for workers. He stands up for himself, for his own narrow self-interest. And he's abandoned those working people. He's worked to tax their fuel and their food. He wants to ban their pickup trucks and their hunting rifles. He supports policies to shut down their union jobs in resource sectors, and he wants to ban them from having their own private drug plan, which they have fought so hard to achieve. They reject the radicalism and the sellout of the NDP. They want a common-sense Conservative government that will bring home the Canada we love.
To the point of order, I do want to remind members once again that when somebody else has the floor, to please not interrupt. And that includes not interrupting me when I have the floor. The honourable member for Victoria has a point of order.
Madam Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition used unparliamentary language. I would ask for an apology.
I would like to hear what the point of order is, and I can't do that if members are yelling out. The honourable member for Victoria.
Madam Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition used unparliamentary language. I would ask for an apology and for him to no longer use the word sellout.
Sorry, I have another point of order. The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
The corporate sellout leader of the Conservative Party used unparliamentary language, and if this is not accepted from me, it shouldn't be accepted from the leader of the Conservative Party.
How is that possible? I may have missed that during the discussions that we're having had. I will go back and look at the Hansard to see exactly what was said. If it was that it was directed as a personal attack, then I will be asking the honourable member, Leader of the Official Opposition, to withdraw and to apologize. But I do apologize. I was hearing some heckling and I was focused on that, so I didn't quite hear what was being said. So we will go back to the Hansard and come back to the House if required. We have time for one more question. The Honourable Leader of the Government, House Leader.
Madam Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition likes to point out what he thinks are falsehoods, but I think it's important that we should correct the record.
I'm going to ask the Honourable member to re-ask her question, because there is a couple of individuals that are still speaking, and it's very difficult to hear what is being said. And so, therefore, I will ask the Honourable Leader of the Government to re-ask her question, and I would ask members to please be respectful. A point of order, the Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Well, the Conservatives were asking me unofficially to withdraw a comment about the member from Stornoway working at Dairy Queen. We don't actually know if he ever did work at Dairy Queen. You can't say that.
So I just want, again, I would ask members to make sure that if they're going to raise points of order, that they indicate which standing order that they're rising on, so that the House can function properly, and I don't need other people to encourage anything in the House. The Honourable Leader of the Government, House Leader in the Government.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. While the Leader of the Opposition likes to call out, quote-unquote, what he calls falsehoods, I think it's important that we set the record straight. When he talks about healthcare transfers, those were the 2003 healthcare accords that were signed by Paul Martin, a Liberal Prime Minister. So it seems that the things that are good that he takes credit for were things that were Liberal policies. But what I would like to ask him is, since he stands on his record, does he plan to raise the age of retirement from 65 to 67 as he did when he was in government? And does he also plan to rip up the child care agreements, which he did when he was in government as well? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
No. And further, what I also don't plan to do is cut health care the way the Liberals did in the preceding years prior to Conservatives coming in and rebuilding the public health care system. They slashed health care by $20 billion. We increased it by 70% to heal the pain and damage. And furthermore, I'll bring in a Blue Seal standard so our brilliant 20,000 immigrant doctors, 32,000 immigrant nurses can get licensed, get to work, and reduce waiting lists. And finally, I will reject the radical plan for, and I quote, a single-payer drug plan. That's right in the law. By definition, that means all the private plans must be banned under the Liberal NDP agenda, which they lay out in their wording in their pharmacare bill. They want to ban you from having a private drug plan with the hope and the promise that one day you might get a government plan, like the government housing plan that doubled your housing costs, right? Like the government school food program that hasn't delivered a single meal in 2 years, like the government gun plan, which spent $67 million without recovering a single gun. These people cannot be trusted to run a lemonade stand, let alone a drug plan, and I will protect your right to have a private drug plan so that you have the medication you need when you go to the drugstore.
Resuming